Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the view from the opposition with me, Andrew Musgrove. And today, providing the Burnley insight is YouTuber Liam Waddington. And you can find his channel, although I'm sure you guys listening have probably already stumbled across it, but you can find him on YouTube at Vizer. And Liam also recently has just opened Mazzala Designs. And if you head over to the website, I'm told, in fact, I've had a look myself, you can find some very nice Newcastle United prints to put on your wall. Liam, thank you very much for joining us. How are you keeping?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really good. It's always a good moment for me when we face Newcastle, as I spent a good couple of years up there at uni. So I got a lot of respect and a lot of love for the Geordies. So I enjoy when we face Newcastle. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be an interesting game. I mean, Burnley do travel to St James's Park, still looking for the first win of the season. But I'm just wondering, because I haven't seen a lot of Burnley this season, and I'm sure our listeners haven't either. Have they been close to getting that first win in the previous games?
In the first three, no, I'd say we've been way off it. I think the way how we've gone into this season is that we clearly have talent in our squad, but it's a lot of raw talent, a lot of young players. There is some experience, but I think trying to find the right balance and trying to mix in the experience with the young raw talent together. And in the Premier League, you're going to get hurt very fast if you are not fully ready and you're firing on all cylinders. So in the first three games, we had some good moments. For example, Man City, I imagine a good chunk of people maybe watched that game, and we started off quite well. However, our kind of belief in our ability seems to fade by the 30th minute as we make one or two mistakes in trying to pass up the back, and you can kind of see it drain on the players. So he didn't start really that well. Of course, big losses at home to Spurs. And then Forest, I would say that a lot of people, if they watched it, were probably a bit unfortunate, very unfortunate, and feeling a bit sorry for Burnley that we didn't come out with all 3 points. Very harsh goal, chalked off by VAR, and we have got better, and we have had quite a very tough run of fixtures. City, United, Villa, Spurs, and then Forest. Realistically, only Forest is the one you can look at and say, okay, we should expect something, and we should. So, yeah. All in all, no one's really too worried right now in the Burnley perspective, and we kind of are going into another game here where we're not going to freak out if we lose this one as well, as long as we're giving a good performance.
So have you seen enough then in those games that Burnley have lost, and you've seen enough to be positive about the season ahead that, because a lot of people have got Burnley is amongst the favourites to go down, but I'm assuming from a Burnley perspective, you're looking at the positives that you can take from each game played so far.
I think there's a lot of recency bias when it comes to people's perspectives on Burnley. A lot that I saw online was saying that Burnley should be completely fine this year, and that when you look at our team and the way that we want to play, a lot of positivity was around the fan base from neutrals and the fans alike. Look, we all know how fast a season can turn around. You guys know that more than anyone else. You guys were in the bottom three for the entirety of half a season until, of course, January comes. Eddie Howe comes in, and you guys are basically 10th place when you're 11th place. We all know a couple of wins, or even just one win, and the perspective of a club can change dramatically. So right now, I think everyone's still completely level, knowing that it's still a young team. Last year, with Company, we had a pretty slow start in the grand scheme of things, and then really ramped it up around October time. So we've got you, and then we got Luton, then Chelsea, and then some much more favourable games in a row, like Palace and Bournemouth and Brentford, and that is when we should be judged accordingly. And if we are still in the bottom three by then that is fair to judge us, in my opinion.
So not hitting the panic button just yet. Burnley in the League Cup, they beat Salford 4-0. And I know it was a much changed side, but what do you think that'll do for the confidence of the squad heading up to Tyneside on Saturday?
I think it's just, you win games of football, you get that good feel into your club, and that's what you need. And we have got quite a large squad, and there's a lot of competitive areas in our squad as well. There's a lot of question marks in terms of who should start on our team, because with competition, it fuels that drive to strive and better yourself. And that's one thing that company desires the most, is that he doesn't want a stable team week in, week out. He wants people to non-stop in training ground and by the performances strive to be in the starting 11. So Salford was a great example that we had a completely new 11 changes, and some players really impressed. And that is what we need in this current situation. And it's going to be a good headache to see who will start away at Newcastle. I've got this weird feeling that away from home we may be a bit better, or set up a bit more suited for the Premier League. I feel like we may be a bit more conservative, maybe a bit more structured in our attack, because at home I feel like we really try to play similar to how we did in the Championship, which means that we are way too prone to counter-attacks. And when you're in the Premier League, you're facing James Maddison and Heung-min Son or Erling Haaland, you're going to get punished. And we have. So I think we are learning and adapting that. And I think away from home, it may suit us and force us a bit more, a lot better for this league.
That's very interesting you say that, and I'll get you some more thoughts on that in just a moment. But it sounds like, having beaten Salford in the League Cup, that it sounds like some of the performances from that game may force Vincent Kompany into a potential change on Saturday.
You would imagine so. Anas Arori basically got 4 assists in that game. Technically a hat trick, but the fourth one was basically a deflection from his own free kick. So it is 4. So Arori hasn't played too much this year. It's a weird one because a lot of players, that was a massive part, exciting part of our title winning season last year. In the likes of Manuel Benson and Anas Arori, we've not seen much of, and we don't really fully know why. And we know there's quality there. And the players we have brought in, they've got quality too. Koleosho, great quality. And it's all about trying to find that balance of who works the best together. And the only way you would find out is by playing games of football in a professional, proper setting. You could do all you want in training or in friendlies, but it would never replicate in the same way as an actual competitive match. And we've got games to find out who works the best with each other. And that's why I did expect a bit of a slow start. And we're going to find out against Newcastle how much further we've progressed.
It's certainly going to be interesting. It is interesting that you mentioned that maybe away from home they're a bit more suited. I was going to ask you how Burnley handle the underdog tag, because they do come up the Tyneside, and I think you'll be hard pressed to find anyone that hasn't got Newcastle United favourites, especially after Newcastle beat Man City in the League Cup. Will that play into Burnley's hands, the fact that many people won't really be expecting them to get anything from this game?
You would like to think so. You would like to think so. Kompany, throughout every part of each game, is always balanced. If you win, if you smash teams, if you lose, if we get smashed, he's always balanced, always keeps level head, and always respects the opposition and knows that we simply have to do our jobs. So yes, we'll be underdogs, and we will be for, I guess, a good amount of games this year. And only time can tell exactly how we respond to that, because this is really our first away game this year that we are underdogs. We've only faced Forest twice this year, in the cup and away in the league. So both away games, well, I guess also Salford too, but we're not really going to count that. So I'm going to see how we respond, how we set up. Will we be a bit more conservative, or will we go to try to play football? I don't know exactly what we're going to do here, because if we go to St. James's Park and try to play football, pass after them back, which is what we've been doing the entire year, I mean, I don't know how that will exactly work out, because you are a great team, you're a hard-working team, you're a structured team, and it's going to be interesting to see if we are able to pull that off. Probably not. That's why I expect us to change a little bit, and that's why, as a Burnley fan, this is the first time we can really look at it this year as an underdog away from home and see how we are going to set up. And it's going to be an interesting game for us to watch and to see how we can fare for the rest of the year.
I think that will please Newcastle United fans to hear you say there's a potential that Burnley might try and play out from the back, because, as you say, Newcastle United are very structured in how they react to that, and they're very good at pressing teams. And I think at times last season, they were the best pressing side in the Premier League. You know, they hurry defenses, they force them into mistakes. And if Burnley do try and play out, I think that will benefit Newcastle, because let's say if Callum Wilson manages to pass the fitness test, there's a bit of doubt there, but he will be straight down the throat of the defender, straight down the throat of the goalkeeper, really trying to push them into mistakes. And we've seen Newcastle punish teams who are just a bit careless at the back and they can't pass their way out. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see if that is their approach. I mean, tactically, in terms of formations, what are you expecting?
It'll be the same as usual. I think it'll be a kind of 4-4-2 in defending, but attacking wise, it's basically a bit of a fluid 4-2-3-1. Our aim is just to make sure that people are aware, this isn't Burnley of old. If you're a fan that have not watched a single second of Burnley or seen any highlights, we are not Sean Dyche's Burnley. We are a completely different animal, and that's for bad. That's for good reasons or bad reasons, because we are going to go and try to play off the back at Newcastle. We are going to, because that's how we've done each game. Against City, against Spurs, we've tried. Issue is, we can do that 8 or 10 times. 8 out of 10 times, but we will make a mistake. We will get caught out because we are still a young team and still a bit inexperienced. And when we get that one time we get caught out, that's when we get punished. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun one to see how that fares. Of course, you've got a great team. We already know that, and I'd be taking a point from you right now if I could. I'll take that as a win at this stage, because right now it's just trying to keep a bit, especially after. Ignore you guys beating City. You just smashed Sheffield down to 8-0. So I'll take a draw would be 3 points from my perspective here, I'll be honest.
Well, I was going to ask you about what you take from Newcastle's last few results. A point in the sand, see you thumping Sheffield United 8-0 and then dumping Man City out of the cup. Is the next team to visit? What are you looking at from Newcastle? Are you fearing Newcastle? Are you trying to concentrate just on what Burnley can do to beat them?
I guess the only hope we can have is that there's that beauty of football, isn't it? The beauty of complacency. Like, it'd be like a really funny story if you guys go on and beat Sheffield United 8-0, beat City, somehow lose to Burnley, and then go on and beat PSG next game. I like that part of football where sometimes football makes no sense. I'm hoping that there's some sort of beautiful storyline here that maybe that could be working out here, that you somehow lose to us and you go and beat PSG after beating City. I think that would be just funny, just a screenshot, and that would actually make sense, because Newcastle fans, as I would know as well as I know many of them, it's never straightforward with Newcastle, and they always find a way to surprise you. So I'm playing on that more than anything else. Like, we are a great team, however, we aren't consistent, and our belief in our ability, if we do make a mistake or two, does fade away, and that's our issue now, because we are still quite a young team. We will try to go at our wingers. Our wing play is by far our best element. In Koleosho or Trezor or Zaruri or Benson, we've got 5-6 tricky wingers with pace and ability that can take a man on. The only issue is we've not got really that fluency in terms of where other players should be to break teams down. And that is where over time we will hope to learn. But again, as I said many times, game by game, you got to find out what works the best. And with each game, we hope to get better and better, as what company likes to say, that always make sure your next game is the best version of yourself. And we have got better in the last 2 games against Man United. 1-0 loss at home. They were there for the taking. We all kind of know that. But there were some positives there in that game. So we're going to hope that we could take that and see what happens in this game.
It would be very Newcastle United to lose to Burnley, then beat PSG. I mean, after Newcastle beat Man City and before the draw was done, and Newcastle were handed Manchester United in the next round. I was speaking to quite a few Newcastle fans at the stadium, and the kind of take was, we'll get Exeter next and then get dumped out in the 4th round, having beat Manchester City. Yeah. So there's always that expectation that Newcastle United somehow will do the unthinkable. But it's going to be an interesting game to say the least. Talk to me about Vincent Kompany then, because he has been consistently linked as the next manager in line for Manchester City. He's well respected. I mean, fantastic player. he's done a great job getting Burnley up to the Premier League. How has he done so far in the Premier League in terms of handling, I guess, the step up? I mean, it's one thing being a great defender, great player, but being a manager, it's a slightly different ballgame.
In terms of his demeanor, he says all the right things. He treats everyone with respect in terms of how he reacts on and off the pitch. He's an absolute gentleman. In terms of his play style, he wants to excite the fans. He wants to showcase the talent that the players have. And that is what he's trying to make the players believe in. Is it a bit of a step up between Championship and Premier League? Obviously. And of course, when you are a new team, you have some expectations to try to adapt. And right now, we've not adapted as defensive or conservative as I thought we would have. We clearly do believe that we can outplay teams in this division. And only time can tell when we do play against more teams on our level, mid-table, lower half pack, we can probably see how we can fare. I do believe that if he had maybe a bit better players, better quality players, then the way he wants to play would make a lot more sense. However, right now, because of the sheer youth in our team still, I think that it is touching the level of naivety just a little bit. And people are already questioning the fact that it does have some shades of Daniel Farke at Norwich City, that they try to play nice attacking football. However, if you start off that way, you've got to get results quite fast. Otherwise, your belief in playing that type of football fades very fast. And if you still haven't won a game by October time and you're still bottom, then it all kind of falls apart. So that's the perspective that we've got in the fan base. We know that company is talented. We know that, in my opinion, he can go right to the very top. He's got everything in his locker. He has just signed a new deal at Burnley. So there were some links to Spurs, I believe, before they got Ange, even a Belgian national team. He never had any interest in any of that and just wanted to focus on Burnley. I respect that. And no matter what, he will never be questioned in terms of his spot in the team. And I don't think that even if we somehow go down this year, I don't think he'd be sacked. The way that I see it, in terms of everything is based around him. All the players that's been brought in is all based around Vincent Kompany. And if he leaves, I feel like a lot of it will start falling apart a little bit.
It's interesting because it sounds like you're kind of debating in your head whether you want him to kind of stick with the ethos that he wants to apply to the team in a nice football, attractive football. But then on the other hand, the fans are looking at it and thinking, well, it might be nice, but we're not getting the results at the moment. And, that's what matters. And in time, survive this season, get a bit more funds through the door, and you can start buying the players that can then make that ethos work a little bit better next season. I mean, it must be a difficult position to be in, because I think Newcastle fans might remember that under Rafa Benitez. He played ugly football, but it was justified to keep Newcastle in the Premier League. It wasn't the football he wanted to play. It wasn't the football Newcastle fans wanted to see. But there was an understanding that it was short-term pain for long-term gain, so to speak. And it sounds like maybe that's what Burnley fans are trying to balance with.
It's a weird one, because it's not like we've done what Sheffield United have done, where like they've played Everton's or like Luton's, they've played teams around them and they've still got battered. Like, we've faced top sides the entire time, other than one. And the one team that we've played that's been more on our level, we've looked the better of that game. Their 90 minutes, we looked better than Forest that game, and we should have got 3 points. So that's the thing. It's almost like, yes, we've only got 1 point, but we've faced, Villa, Spurs, City, and United. They will all be in top 7, top 8 this year. They're great sides, fantastic sides, and that's not to put to one side the fact we lost, but it makes more of an understanding when it comes to, okay, straight away you can understand. That's why I say judge us properly in October, and that's when we will start judging, because once we go through Brentford and Luton and Bournemouth and Palace, then we can really see, okay, where are we actually at? And I think by then we should probably get at least 2 wins, I would say, if I'm being a realistic fan. I think 2 wins, maybe a draw or 2, and you already know what it's like. You get 1 or 2 wins on the board, and suddenly you go from 19th, now you're 15th, you're 14th, and now you're buzzing. And now it looks like it's all fine again. football is a funny sport. So we all know how fast everything can change. So that's why I'm not, even if we lose this weekend, we lose 2-0, whatever, I'm not going to be too bothered as long as we play a decent, have a decent showing for ourselves. So that's where my mind's at right now. I don't speak on behalf of every Burnley fan, but I do speak on behalf of the fact that no one's doubted Vincent Kompany.
Well, I mean, people who listen to the podcast will know I'm a big fan of the word momentum. And like you say, there are a couple of wins and that momentum starts rolling. You could find yourself, heading towards the top 10. If you were sitting across from Eddie Howe then, and he was asking you who the key man was for Burnley, who's the man I've got to keep quiet on Saturday, who would you be telling them is the man?
It's a weird one right now because we've not done too much right now. However, if the game was to be changed, I would say it'd be Zeki Amdouni, personally. I think that he's a fantastic footballer, just very technically gifted. The way that he'd be on number 9 for this game as Foster is out on a suspension. And he brings the ball down beautifully. He transitions it so well. He's intelligent in terms of his awareness of where other players on the pitch. Great link-up play. And if we were to get something out of this game, I can guarantee that Zeki Amdouni would be a part of that. A lot of people may have seen the likes of Koleosho, who's been also accelerating, taking on players at will, a lot of pace, a young player as well. So he can take a man on, but his final decision-making is still a bit raw. So that's one thing that with time we'll get better at. But yeah, Zeki Amdouni, I'm a very big fan of him. And I think that he will be a fantastic player, like absolutely fantastic player. He's already great for the national team for Switzerland. So yeah, I'll bank on him to be the difference maker if we were to get something out of this game.
So I'm sure Fabian Schär then will be already well aware of him and probably warning Eddie Howe as well to keep an eye on him. What's the main weakness of Burnley? Where can Newcastle really target on Saturday?
Our defence and our proneness to transitions. If we make a bad pass, it isn't unlikely to think that it'd be an instant 2-on-2 situation or 3-on-3 situation. We commit players a lot, or we have done in the last couple of games against City, against Villa, against Spurs. Granted, these were all at home, but we commit players and we want to pass off the back and have that confidence in our ability, which is fine and all, but we will get caught out. There will be a mistake. And with Newcastle and the way that you guys press, that is something that you guys will already know very well about. And that would be, I think, one big thing that we will see a lot this weekend, that we'll try and pass out. We will make a mistake or two. And on transition, you guys can make it count. You can make it pay. And you've just scored 8 past Sheffield United. So I have no doubts that that is a serious problem. So if the game was to be won for Newcastle, they'd be definitely keeping us and pinning us into our final third and making it really tough for us to get the ball to our attackers that can really make a difference. If you guys suffocate that link, then the game's won. That's just the fact of the matter.
As simple as that. And from a Newcastle point of view, I don't know how much you've watched the Magpies this season, but is there a particular player that you're really interested in seeing that maybe you're really fearing Burnley having to keep quiet?
I've not watched as much as Newcastle as I wanted to this year, but I do really, really enjoy Isaac. Is it Isaac or Isaac? It's Isaac, isn't it?
Yeah, Isaac, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. I think he's a beautiful footballer, and his physicality, I think, because we've not got a really physical defense back line. We're much more modern, I guess, footballing team in terms of a bit more smaller but great on the ball. And I think he could be a difference in just terms of just making it really difficult for us. I don't know if he'll start or not for you guys this weekend or not, but he's a fantastic footballer. And of course, you guys got many fantastic players. I mean, I've got a weird feeling that Trippier, of course, our ex-player, that he may have a factor to play in this game, probably a set piece. We're not the best on set pieces, so a corner or some sort of free kick coming in from him to get an assist, I would not be surprised. That's also one thing as well. We're not the best from set pieces because, again, we are still young, and when it comes to height, not the tallest sides. So that could be also one big element as well. And you guys are great from set pieces as far as I'm aware. So yeah, honestly, if we get a draw, that's a win for me because, like, basically all our weaknesses is going to be to show here against the best team to take advantage of our weaknesses. I may not even watch the game at this stage, honestly. It's going to be a fun one.
I was going to say, you're not sounding too confident, but it's interesting you mentioned Kieran Trippier. He didn't start, I didn't even feature, against Man City in the League Cup. So he's rested up really nicely. He was superb in the San Siro against Milan in the Champions League.
So
3
he's definitely
assists
fit.
against Sheffield United. So he's fit. And you'll be playing with a full battery as well. I mean, and if not, Tino Livramento made his debut against Man City and looked like he'd been playing for years, and not that it's his first game in black and white. So they've got options at right back. But yeah, Trippier has really found his form of late. I don't think he'd start the season superbly, especially by the standards he's set in the season before. But the last week, he's just been absolutely brilliant. So a fully fit Kieran Trippier on Saturday probably is one man to watch out for from a Burnley perspective. Before I ask you for your score prediction, because I know I'm sorry, I can't make you feel any better about it. But you know what, Liam? It is very much Newcastle United's way to come into a game on the back of good results, favourites against a side who have quite a few issues, and for them to lose the game. And my listeners will be screaming saying, yeah,
that's what I'm banking on. I'm banking on that. Like, I hope that some complacency could be shown. I don't think Eddie Howe even allowed that, but you never know. You never know.
It doesn't happen as often as it used to, but I think it's just the Newcastle fan of old, having spent many years watching Newcastle mess up when they shouldn't do. It still creeps in every now and then. But I think the majority of people will be expecting Newcastle United to win, although nothing's certain in this league because there's no easy games. Before I ask you for your score prediction, because we always like the opposition insight man to give us their score prediction, just tell our listeners and viewers a bit about your YouTube channel and again where they can find you and what kind of content you're putting out.
Well, my YouTube's doing the best it's ever been right now. I just do sort of football documentaries or video essays about, I guess, right now more topical things in the world. So a video of mine last weekend about Chelsea's collapse, basically about quarter of a million views right now. Really, really impressive, and long may it continue. I did a lot of FIFA stuff for a long time. I don't like FIFA anymore. I can't stand it anymore, so I don't do it. So I just talk about football and a bit of Burnley to the side as well. I don't think there's many Burnley content creators that you may know. So yeah, I'm just football, and that's what we love the game for. So yeah, just keeping it up, and yeah, I'm just being consistent really. My daughter was born last week as well, so it's been a bit of a fun time with that as well. So yeah, just trying to keep the balance right.
Well, congratulations on that. I've got a 10-week-old baby, so I'm not too far ahead of you on that. So I understand the sleepless nights, but it's all worth it.
It's my second as well.
Your second, so you know all about it. Then you can give me some tips. So there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a look at the contents, but the graphics as well that you've started doing the designs. Like I say to our listeners and viewers, pop over to the website because there's some designs of Bruno on there and what have you. They look great. That's something new you've just started doing, isn't it?
Yeah, round up April time, just like some football prints, frame prints, more in terms of the most iconic goals in your club's history. So I think for Newcastle, the most popular is Alan Shearer v Sunderland for the penalty. I think in what year was it? 2005 or 7? 5 or 7? I forgot which one it exactly was, but it was when you guys beat them at Stadium of Light. So I think that's the most popular right now. But yeah, Newcastle fans been really good with Mazzala. So they're proper fans up there. I mean, of course, I lived up there for a couple of years. I went to Northumbria Uni, and I think during that time period, that was when Rafa was there, and on my main street was basically where everyone had to go in and out to get to the centre. I lived in Shieldfield area, so basically across from the Northumbria Business Building, and every single night you just hear this Rafa, Benitez, and it literally continues the entire night, like 2, 3, 4, 5. I was just joining them at times because I just get bored. So yeah, I know that people give Newcastle a bit of stick because of the ownership in the last couple of years, but I don't have any complaints at all whatsoever. I think if any club could be bought out and given a chance, it's Newcastle. Proper city, proper fans, and that's why I kind of, if there's any club in the Premier League that I have a soft spot for and I hope does well, it's definitely you lot. So, of course, if we score against you this weekend, I'll celebrate the same way as anyone else. But after this game, I hope you guys crack on in the Champions League and beat PSG.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Some lovely words there, Liam. I'm sure our fans and residents of the city will appreciate everything you've just said there. All that remains to be done then is to get your score prediction for Saturday. How's it going to go?
You want realistic? You want a realistic prediction, or you
I'll
want
take whatever you want to give us.
biased? I mean, I think in the way that I look at this game, I'll take a 2-0 loss at this stage. If I'm being realistic, it's probably a 2-0. If I'm being biased and delusional, probably a 1-1. We'll still probably concede a set piece or something like that. And we've got tricky wingers. We can definitely make something happen here. We can definitely cause some threat. The only issue that I have is, can we get the ball enough to them? Because from the, passing after the back, we will try and do that. We won't hoof it long. We've not got the players that hoof it long. We're going to try to play football at St. James's. So if we can succeed extend the ball enough to attackers, we will cause a threat. It's just how successful we are at that. So completely biased and delusional, I'll say a 1-1 draw. But if I'm being realistic, I think it could be a 2-0 loss, in my own personal opinion.
I'm a big fan of the word delusional and then a 1-1 draw. That kind of shows you just how not confident you are about Saturday. I think I'm going to go for Newcastle.
You just beat the City yesterday, and you've just smashed a team 8-0. You know what I mean? Like, come on. It's not like you just beat Luton 1-0 or something. Like, what more can I really expect from this game? I mean, if I come here and say we were going to beat you, I'm just going to be called an idiot. So I got to be realistic here.
Well, I appreciate the realism. I'm going to go for Newcastle United win. I'm going to go 3-0. I'm feeling confident. So I'm going to go 3-0 Newcastle United, and it'll set them up nicely for the game against PSG on Wednesday. Liam, I do appreciate you popping on to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's been a pleasure talking to you at such short notice as well. To you guys watching and listening, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button to whichever platform you're joining us on, and head over to chroniclelive.co.uk for all the latest Newcastle United news, including live coverage of Newcastle's game against Burnley through our dedicated live blog.